With the MLB season in full swing, there have been a ton of players this year that have not been meeting their expectations and have been disappointing overall throughout the first month of the 2025 regular season. So for today's video, I wanted to go through every MLB team's most disappointing player so far this year. So we're going to start things off with the St. Louis Cardinals, a team that has been up and down so far this year, but pretty much they're at their expectations so far. I would say that their most disappointing player has to be 22-year-old Jordan Walker. Jordan Walker was a first-round pick for the St. Louis Cardinals back in the 2020 draft, and his development got stumped a little bit when they traded for Nolan Arenado, and he had to play out of position in the outfield. Now this year he was going to be a full-time starter in right field, and he's gone off to a very lackluster start at the plate. So far this year, through 94 plate appearances, Jordan Walker has a 198 average, a 266 OBP, and slugging just 279. That puts him at a 545 OPS. He is whiffing a ton. He's also chasing a ton as well, and he was just somebody that had freakish tools, and he was a freakish athlete coming out of high school. He's still very young, but this could have been a year where Walker could finally break out and showcase why the St. Louis Cardinals drafted him with the 21st overall pick in that 2020 draft. I could have also gone with Wilson Contreras, but I'm definitely less worried about Contreras than I am with Jordan Walker right now. Next up for the Cincinnati Reds, we are going to talk about Spencer Steer, who has started off this year as the main DH for the Reds. He's somebody that could play multiple positions, but he has not gotten off to a start after a convincing 2023 and a productive 2024. So far this year, through 74 plate appearances, he's got a 149 batting average, a 230 OBP, a 239 slug, and has just one home run on the year. Like Walker, he is whiffing a ton, but he's definitely chasing a lot less, and Steer has had a couple nice games as of late, and hopefully it could be a nice start to a good stretch for Spencer Steer, who is still one of their better younger hitters at 27 years old, and he did start off the year with an injury as well, so hopefully he becomes fully healthy and he could be a good utility bat for the Reds as they're trying to make the playoffs this season. The Milwaukee Brewers are currently second in the NL Central at the moment, and I would say that their most disappointing player is also a hitter, and that is their center fielder, Garrett Mitchell. I was very high on Garrett Mitchell coming into the year. The expected numbers loved him. The advanced numbers loved him after a very solid 2024 season as a platoon bat. But this year, through 64 at-bats, 73 plate appearances, he's got a 200 batting average, a 278 OBP, and a 297 slugging, as I thought Garrett Mitchell could really break out and be the third best hitter on this team after William Contreras and Jackson Chourio. Yeah, I expected him to be better than Christian Yelich this year. I had very high praise for Garrett Mitchell going into the season. A lot of guys have stepped up on Milwaukee this year with all their injuries in the starting rotation. The bats have been keeping them alive. They've had multiple disappointments this year so far with Garrett Mitchell, with Joey Ortiz, and William Contreras and Christian Yelich have not been living up to their expectations, but have been playing somewhat better as of late. For the Pittsburgh Pirates, I'm going to go with somebody that was actually sent down to the minor leagues, and that was David Bednar. David Bednar was one of the best closers in the league in 2022. He was an all-star for the Pittsburgh Pirates, and he had a 2.61 ERA. He followed up that all-star year with an even better year. Led the MLB in saves with 39. He had a 2 ERA and was an all-star yet again, but then he struggled a ton in 2024, posting a 5.77 ERA in 57 innings, and this year got off to a rough start in Pittsburgh and has been actually sent down to the minor leagues at 30 years old. For somebody that was a premier trade asset, was one of the best closers in the league, is no longer on the major league roster for one of the worst teams in the league. You could say that's definitely a disappointment. The Chicago Cubs have been one of the more entertaining teams this year. It feels like every single night they are just in a offensive slugfest. They're currently first in the NL Central this year, and a lot of guys have been having strong years. Newly acquired Kyle Tucker's been off to a great start. Same with Pete Crow Armstrong and Seiya Suzuki, but somebody that's been very disappointing for them, Dansby Swanson. This is Swanson's third year in Chicago. He had a relatively productive year over a 5-WAR season in 2023, but it dropped off in 2024 as he had just a 701 OPS. And this year, while he's still a good defender at short, has been off to a horrible start at the plate. A 192 batting average, a 241 OBP. He has just a 606 on OPS, and he's still making a ton of money for this team going forward. $28 million this year, and every single year basically till 2029. And with this team trying to pony up some money for Kyle Tucker this offseason, them not getting good production out of somebody that's making the most on their roster is very disappointing right now. The Detroit Tigers have one of the best starting rotations in the MLB at the moment, and I would say that their most disappointing player so far is another batter, and that is going to be Colt Keith. Guys like Spencer Torkelson, Zach McKinstry have been exceeding expectations this year, and you could even give this to Riley Green as well, but they pre-arbed extended Colt Keith last year at 23 years old. He was asked to change positions this year, but then has gone back to his normal position at second base, but it's just not been a good start whatsoever. He doesn't have a home run this year in 78 plate appearances. He has a negative WAR, a 188 batting average, a 66 OPS plus, so that means he is 34% worse than league average. And this team, if they can get some bats going, they could really be a threat in the AL Central. It's not a great division. They're in first place right now. Like I said before, they have one of the best starting rotations in the MLB, so hopefully they can get a little bit more out of somebody that was one of their more exciting bats in the future. There's been a lot of disappointments in Cleveland so far, and I think you can go with one of a couple starting pitchers for them. You could definitely go with Gavin Williams, more so Tanner Bybee. I'm actually going to go with somebody they just recently DFA'd, Tristan McKenzie. If you can remember back in 2022, McKenzie had a 2.96 ERA in 30 starts, 191 innings, and really looked like a big part of the Cleveland Guardians' future. And then injuries started to pile up for Tristan McKenzie, and then he was recently DFA'd. He appeared in 4 games this year. He had an 11 ERA, and it looks like his time is done in Cleveland as a 27-year-old. Man, I was so high on Vinny Pasquantino after his 2022 rookie season, but injuries have kind of costed him some playing time in 2023. In 2024, he was a fine hitter, finished with a 760 OPS and a 111 OPS plus, but it's not been a good start for Vinny Pasquantino in St. Louis. In Kansas City, a 186 batting average, a 260 OBP, a 314 slug. He needs to rate to be valuable here as a first baseman at 27 years old for the Kansas City Royals, who desperately need complementary bats to Bobby Witt in this lineup. This team could not withstand the production they're getting outside of Bobby Witt. Bobby Witt has an 850 OPS. There's not a single person in this starting lineup that has over a 600 OPS outside of Michael Garcia. It's terrible. Salvador Perez has a 528 OPS. Michael Massey has a 442 OPS. Jonathan India has been bad. Same with MJ Melendez, Kyle Isbell, and Hunter Renfroe. This is one of the worst offensive teams in the MLB so far, and that's why they're a couple games under 500 at the moment. For the Minnesota Twins, I'm going to go with Carlos Correa. At 30 years old, he was supposed to be one of the more reliable bats for this team this year. There's a lot of variance due to health with their top bats of Byron Buxton, Royce Lewis, and Carlos Correa, who's making a lot of money going forward, and he's making $37 million this year, $32 million next year, $31 million in 2027 and 2028, and then has some club options after that going forward. But Correa is batting under the Mendoza line this year at a 173 batting average, 230 OBP, a 284 slugging percentage, and just has 1 home run on the year, just 14 hits and 87 plate appearances. It's not been good for one of the best shortstops over the last few years in the MLB. Not a lot of players on the Chicago White Sox had high expectations going into the year, but one player they really wanted to go back to his 2023 form so they can trade him at the deadline, Luis Robert, who's been off to a terrible start. He has a negative WAR. He has an OPS plus at a 53. He's batting 145, a 267 OBP. He's got 2 home runs in 92 plate appearances. It is encouraging. He already has 7 steals this year, but he can't get on base at the moment, which is a 267 OBP. I'd say for the New York Mets that their most disappointing player so far is probably Mark Vientos. He got off to an abysmal start. He has been heating up a little bit as of late, but he's another player that is batting under the Mendoza line, a 175 batting average, a 267 OBP. He has an OPS plus of a 66. He has just 14 hits in 80 at-bats this year for the Mets after having that breakout 2024 season. He posted over 3 wins above replacement that year. He had 27 home runs and was a big part of the Mets NLCS playoff run in 2024. He needs to get things going because right now the Mets lineup is very top heavy. Even though they are the best team in the MLB, it's mostly because of their pitching staff. But guys like Soto, Lindor, and Pete Alonso have stepped up this year, but they also need Mark Vientos to step up as a complimentary bat to those top guys. The Philadelphia Phillies are above 500 this year, but it does feel like a disappointing start for them, and I'm going to go with their most disappointing player, Aaron Nola. He is 0-5 to start off the year with a 6.43 ERA in 28 innings. He's leading the MLB in earned runs right now with 20, and he's making a lot of money going forward. They extended him last year. He's making $24 million basically every single year till 2030, and he's 31 years old, and it does feel like every other year, Nola is good, then bad. Good, then bad. 5.7 WAR in 2022, down to 2.3 in 2023. 3.7 WAR last year, and is off to one of the worst starts you can imagine this year for the Philadelphia Phillies. The 2022 Cy Young winner has probably been very disappointing so far for the Miami Marlins, and that is Sandy Alcantara. He had an 8-win season in 2022, and then struggled in 2023. He had a 4.14 ERA. It was a fine season, but for somebody that was just the best pitcher in baseball in 2022, it was pretty disappointing. Then we found out he was pitching semi-injured. He missed all of 2024. But it's not been a great start for Sandy in 2025 coming off that Tommy John surgery. He's got a negative WAR so far, a 6.5 ERA in 23 innings. He's given up 19 hits and 12 walks, so just 17 strikeouts at the moment. And we all thought this year that Sandy could end up getting traded, so he's definitely hurting his value right now because of this slow start. Another former Cy Young that's been disappointing in the NL East, Chris Sale of the Atlanta Braves. The Atlanta Braves are off to a horrible start relative to their expectations. They are dead last right now in the NL East with a 10-14 record, and Chris Sale was just the best pitcher in baseball last year. He won 18 games. He had a 6-WAR season, a 2.38 ERA. He had a FIP of a 2.09, but this year, it's not been good for Chris Sale. He's got a 6.17 ERA in 23 innings. He's 0-2 to start off the year, and he has not been what he was in that 2024 season as a 35-year-old. Now Chris Sale's getting a little bit older. His FIP showcases that he should be a lot better than this, and I don't expect him to have an above 6 ERA by the end of the year, but you could definitely say this is disappointing for somebody that was looked at as one of the best pitchers in baseball. You can also say that Ozzie Albies or maybe Michael Harris have been very disappointing as well. And for the Washington Nationals, I'm going to go with Dylan Cruz, who was the second overall pick in the 2023 draft. He came up later in the year in 2024, appeared in 31 games, but he was the last starting player to start opening day to get a hit this season. He's batting just 195. He does have 3 home runs and he does have 6 stolen bases. He has been playing better as of late. He's currently on a 8-game hitting streak, so hopefully this is a step in the right direction for the 23-year-old outfielder for the Washington Nationals. You got to go with Devin Williams for the New York Yankees. You could also say that Jazz Chisholm and Cody Bellinger have been disappointing, but Devin Williams was traded for Caleb Durbin and Nestor Cortez last offseason, but he does not look like the airbender who's been one of the best relievers in baseball since 2020. He's off to a 7.8 ERA this season. He's appeared in 9 games, 8 innings. He does have 4 saves, but he's also blown multiple saves as well. He's got a 3.65 FIP. He's allowed 10 hits in those 8 innings, as well as 7 walks. It's been a disastrous start in the Bronx for Devin Williams, who's in a contract year. For the Boston Red Sox, I'm going to go with Rafael Devers, who started off this season with a little bit of drama in Boston as he wanted to stay at third base for his team, a position that Chaim Bloom, a former president of this team, told him that he would continue to play, and then they ended up signing Alex Bregman late in the offseason. He's been raking as their starting third baseman this year, and Devers got off to an abysmal start. He's appeared in every single Red Sox game so far, but he's currently leading the MLB in strikeouts with 34. He's got a 202 batting average and a 340 OBP, but only a 340 slugging for somebody that's been one of the best hitters in baseball and one of the more consistent hitters in baseball over the last 5 years. It's been very disappointing so far for the Baltimore Orioles this year. Basically, everybody is struggling in this lineup right now, not named Cedric Mullins or Ryan O'Hearn. Tyler O'Neill has a 668 OPS. Gunnar Henderson, Jackson Holliday, Ryan Mountcastle have all been very bad. Same with Jordan Westbrook, and the starting rotation isn't much better. I'm going to go with Adley Rutschman because Adley Rutschman was phenomenal for the Orioles in 2022, and he was productive yet again in 2023. Last year, it was a little bit disappointing in 2024, but he should be bouncing back right now, and that's not been the case. A 214 batting average, a 313 OBP, just a 693 OPS for somebody that should be one of the best hitting catchers in the MLB. I'm going to go with Jose Barrios for the Toronto Blue Jays. Maybe his expectations weren't that high because he had an abysmal 2022 season, but really bounced back in 2023 and in 2024. But in 28 innings this year, he's got a 5.02 ERA. He's allowed 13 walks, 28 hits in 28 innings. And outside of Easton Lucas, he's been by far their worst starting pitcher with Kevin Gausman, Chris Bassett, and Bowden Francis all being productive starters for the Blue Jays this season. Not a lot of super disappointing players for the Tampa Bay Rays so far, but I'm going to go with Taj Bradley, who was a former top prospect in the game going into the 2023 season. He did struggle in 104 innings, but bounced back relatively in the 2024 season, where he posted a 4.1 ERA in 138 innings. This year, it's been a disastrous start for the right-hander. Through 5 games this year, he's got a 5.08 ERA in 28 innings. He's got 16 earned runs, 12 walks, 27 hits allowed, but hopefully he can be more consistent going forward for the Rays, who are now multiple games under 500. We'll head out to the NL West now, and we're going to talk about the LA Dodgers, who have been one of the best teams in baseball to no surprise, but Max Muncy has been horrendous this year for the LA Dodgers. Now, he does have a positive WAR because the defense has been all right, and he is walking like he usually does, but he's a 178 batting average, and he does not have a single home run this year. He hit 36 home runs in 2021. He hit 36 home runs in 2023. Last year, just 15 home runs. This year, 0 home runs so far. He's got a 5.29 OPS. And yeah, he can walk a decent amount, but he's not really giving you much value outside of that at the moment for the Dodgers, for somebody that's 34 years old and is in the final year of his contract. Speaking of players that are in the final years of their contracts, we're going to talk about Dylan Cease for the San Diego Padres, who have been one of the best teams in the league so far, and arguably their best pitcher has been horrendous. A 6.04 ERA in 25 innings throughout 5 starts. He's allowed 8 walks, 30 hits in those 25 innings, and he does just have a 66 ERA plus, but he does have a 2.63 FIP, so it does feel like that Dylan Cease is getting a little bit unlucky so far. But yeah, the Padres have been one of the best teams in the league, and if Dylan Cease can get going, they're going to be competing with the NL West Division crown with the LA Dodgers all year long. The San Francisco Giants paid a lot of money to get their franchise shortstop this offseason when they gave Willy Adames us a bag, and he's going to be making over $30 million a year till 2031, and he's been off to a horrendous start. Jung-Hoo Lee's been really solid so far for the San Francisco Giants, but Willy Adames has been the opposite. A 198 batting average, a 268 OBP, a 267 slugging percentage, and he has a negative WAR so far and just one home run in 101 at-bats. The NL West is also a gauntlet this year, as the Diamondbacks has still been a good team at 14-10, but they are in 4th place in this division. And I would say it's more so just because of their starting rotation being somewhat disappointing. I'm going to go with Zach Gallen as their most disappointing player so far, another pitcher that is going to be a free agent at the end of this season. He's got a 5.6 ERA in 27 innings. He's 1-3 to start off the year, and he does have a 4.82 FIP as well. So I am worried that Zach Gallen is going to have one of his worst years of his career when it's the most important one, where he can make over $150 million if he could just be a little bit more consistent in the 2025 season. I don't think there's a more unwatchable team right now than the Colorado Rockies. At least you can get something out of watching the Pirates, definitely something out of watching the A's, or even the Angels this year, or maybe even the Marlins. But the Rockies are just such a disappointment and embarrassment to the MLB, and that's more so on ownership. One of the more exciting players on this team in general, Ezequiel Tovar, after having a very good 2024 season, has been pretty bad to start off 2025. Just a 212 batting average, a 560 OPS in 70 plate appearances, and guys that are exciting to watch like Tovar, maybe Abdel Amador, Chris Bryant, Zach Veen, or even Jordan Beck have all been disappointments, and they were either top prospects for this team or handed out a very large contract a la Chris Bryant. The Houston Astros, I'm going to go with somebody that did homer the other night and has been better as of late after a slow start, but I'm going to go with Christian Walker. I don't know if Astros fans are having a little bit of PTSD from Jose Abreu after watching Christian Walker start, who signed a 3-year deal worth $60 million with the Astros in the offseason. He's known for his power. He has 3 home runs this year, but just a 202 batting average and a 640 OPS, but at least he's still a solid defensive first baseman. For the Texas Rangers, we're going to go with the 34-year-old second baseman who's making over $25 million till 2028. He did help them win a World Series, but he's been disappointing to start off this year. Marcus Semien, who did have a very down year in 2024 after having a very good 5-year stretch. This year, though, a 153 batting average, a 221 OBP, and a 456 OPS. And he's got a negative 0.4 WAR in his first 95 plate appearances in 23 games. You can't get much worse than that. Not a lot of Athletics had high expectations going into the year, and all the young guys are raking right now. Shea Langoliers, Tyler Soderstrom, Jacob Wilson, Lawrence Butler, Brent Rooker, but I think somebody that had a good year in 2024 and JJ Bleday has been pretty rough to watch to start off this year, as his offensive plate discipline has now looked like the same that it did in 2024, and maybe he's getting a little bit unlucky right now, and he does have a 91 OPS plus, and I do think Bleday is going to be better over the course of this season, and if he does, the Athletics could be a sneaky wildcard team in 2025, given how wide open the American League is. Another team that didn't really have high expectations going into the year, the LA Angels, and they have been way better than expectations so far. I'm going to say that Ben Joyce, who recently got put on the injured list, is going to be one of the more disappointing players because he had a very encouraging 2024 season and obviously threw as hard as anybody. A 207 ERA plus, a 208 ERA in 31 games and 34 innings. This year, in 4 innings, he just didn't get off to a good start. A 6.23 ERA, and I'm hoping that the injury isn't going to keep him out too much this season. But with right shoulder inflammation, you never know with that, especially with how hard he throws. And lastly, for the Seattle Mariners, we're going to talk about Julio Rodriguez. He got extended to an absolute bag a couple off seasons ago, and he's been too disappointing over the last year and a half to be putting up these numbers because he was so good in 2022 and in 2023. He did have his moments in 2024, but when you look at his end of the season numbers, they were nowhere near what his expectations were. He's still just 24 years old, but this year, a 202 batting average, a 318 OBP, and a 372 slugging, a 691 OPS. He does have 3 home runs, 5 stolen bases, and 110 plate appearances, and he could still play good defense in center, but he needs to be much better than this if he's going to be the star player in Seattle. So that's going to be for me. I hope you guys did enjoy this video. Let me know who your favorite team's most disappointing player is so far in the 2025 MLB season, and drop a thumbs up if you guys want to see the opposite version of this, where I talk about every team's most surprising players so far down below. Hit that subscribe button if you're not already, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.